In today's class, we are going to learn about tint, tone and shades of colors using poster colors. To begin with, we have to make a template with 4 columns and 6 rows. Make a tabular column like this and start painting the first box with red, followed by blue and yellow, and then the next 3 boxes will be for the secondary colors. We are going to learn what is tint, tone and shade in this class. Tint is a mixture of white to a color, and shade is mixing a color with black, whereas tone is nothing but a mixture of black and white, that is grey. So when we mix grey to the color, what color we get is what we are going to see in the tone column. So now we are painting the second box blue. You can see me leaving a small gap between the red and the blue box. That is to prevent the color from mixing and bleeding into each other, because both the boxes are wet. We will be filling in the gap after the color dries up. On to yellow. Be careful when you go closer to blue. If it is wet, leave a white gap there. Leave a thin gap so that we can fill it up later. In the previous class, we learned about secondary colors. We saw color mixing of secondary colors and tertiary colors. And you are all very well aware of the secondary colors, how they are made. Now we move to the first secondary color. So I am taking red and Persian blue to make purple. Take more of red and little bit of blue. Mix it well till you get a dark purple color. Now fill the box. Now we move on to the secondary color that has to come in the next box. Before that, we'll fill up the gap there because red has dried up. Make sure you leave the gap if the box is wet, otherwise the color will run into the other box and the work will become dirty. Do the same thing for the yellow box also. So now we take yellow and blue and we mix and make green. Fill in the next box. Remember to leave the gap when you go closer to blue. In some boxes, depends on the texture of the color. Sometimes we have to give 2 coats of the color. Like for the green, I have to give 2 coats. Now we move on to the third secondary color, that is orange. So take more of yellow and less of red. Take little color so that it is just enough to paint one little box. If the color is remaining, let it be there because we can use it for the tint, tone and shade. Again, I remind you, please fill in the borders first, all the four lines, and then fill in the box. And I remind you again to leave a gap when you go to the side where you have painted green, because green is still wet. So these are the 6 colors. And now we are going to learn tint, tone and shade with these 6 colors. So the first tint is red and white. So when you mix red and white, we get the tint of red. The more white you add, the more lighter it will become. Now we move on to the next box, that is blue and white. Use separate brushes for every color. Clean your brushes immediately and keep them ready to use the next time. So when you mix any color to white, we take more of white and just a drop of the color. You take more of white. If you have taken 3 drops of white, you will take half a drop of blue. Otherwise you won't find much difference. We move on to the next color. You can see me taking white and I'm mixing yellow to it. So I'm just checking in the box whether it has come in the right shade. It is almost just like the first box because I added too much of yellow, and now you can see me adding more white to make it light. You should know how to make the correct shade. If it is too dark, then you should know how to add more of white. If the color is too light or whitish, then you should add more of yellow or the color that you are painting in to get the right shade. Now we move on to the next box. I have to mix purple and white. I already have purple in my palette, so I am mixing white to that directly and using it in the next box. That is why I asked you to leave all the colors as it is in the palette so that we can use it in the next two boxes also. The next color is tint of green. I already have green and it is not sufficient. And you can see me mixing green again. I've taken white, yellow and blue to make green. Now I paint the tint of green. Now we move on to the last box in the tint row. That is the third secondary color. That is orange and white. If you have it directly in your palette, mix white to that and fill in the box. Now we move on to the shade column because the tint column is wet and the color might bleed into the tone row in case we are coloring the tone. So the first shade is the shade of red. We have taken red and black. So take more of red and little bit of black and paint the first box. Now we move on to the next color, that is blue and black. So you take more of blue and a little bit of black. That is, if you take 3 drops of blue, half a drop of black, and fill in the next box. Make sure the shade of red is dried up before you paint shade of blue. Now we move on to the next shade. So we take 1 drop of black and many drops of yellow. So as you see, that much of yellow is not sufficient. We have to add more yellow. So make sure you take very little bit of black when you mix lighter shades. can see the little gap I have left because the shade of blue is still red and I'm painting it towards the end. Now we move on to the next box. We mix purple and black. So to mix purple, you have to mix red, blue and little bit of black to that. Make sure you take very little black. Mix it well completely so that the color will be in the same shade throughout the box. Now we move on to the next box. What color is that? The shade of green. So we make green, that is blue and yellow. To that you mix black. Don't take the direct green and use it because we are learning to mix colors. We are learning to make colors ourselves. That is why I have taken blue, yellow and black. Now we move on to the last box in the shade column. So that will be orange. So I mix yellow, red to make orange and I mix a bit of black to that. Mix it thoroughly. It has become more dark, so I'm adding more yellow and orange to make it more light. So you would have observed the difference between the tint and the shade column. When we mixed white, what happened to a color, and when we mix black to the same color, what has happened. So now we move on to the tone column. Tone means gray, that is white plus black. So the color red mixed with tone, that is grey. So we are going to mix red and grey, mix it well and fill in the box. Now we move on to the next box. Here we mix Persian blue and grey color. So we get a grey tone of blue. Fill in the box carefully and observe the color change. Next color will be yellow and grey. So now here you can see that the grey tone of blue was wet and the color is bleeding into the next box. I will show you how to correct in case you come across a mistake like this. Just leave it as it is, untouched. Leave a small gap and paint the rest of the box and let it dry completely. Whatever has come inside, the grey color that has come inside, the bluish grey, let it be there. Leave a white gap, don't paint it close, so that will prevent it from flowing further down. And we move on to the next box, that is we mix purple and grey. In case you have the colors in your palette, please go ahead and use the same colors to make the tints tone and shade. So now we move on to the next color, green and grey. We are moving on to the last box, orange and grey color. So we mix red, yellow, black and white. That is a beautiful tone of orange. Fill in the box carefully without making any mistakes. Now we go back and correct the box where we have made a mistake. The tone of yellow. I hope you are very clear with tint, tone and shade.